This talk is about how two really important parts of my life intersected. So to start off this 5-minute talk, I'm going to show you guys one of my favorite phrases. And the reason I like this phrase is that because I believe it retains its sincerity in whichever language you say it in, whichever language I've used it in. You might recognize what it says already, because you speak them. But in English, it's, "I am so glad I met you." When was the last time you heard that phrase being said to you? It's a phrase that I think really shows the value of human connections you have in your life. You know, the type of time-filling, time-stopping connections you get when you bond with someone. Maybe it's the moment you met some of your best friends here or before. And a lot of people think this sort of thing can only happen in like a romantic kind of way, you know? But I get this feeling every time I go home and I'm washing dishes with my dad. It takes us 3 hours to do them because we're too busy catching up. We're 3 people in the house. So like, my mom thinks we're really incompetent, but we never fail to do it. So we have this one thing that we all understand, that we can all relate to. The human connections we have in life. Let's take a step to the side and see how it deals with something that seems utterly different. So, as the title said, I study architecture. And I chose these 3 pictures that I took on my year abroad to show what that can feel like sometimes. I want you guys to imagine it with me. Imagine you're standing in a labyrinth of textures, shapes, buildings, forms, ideas, trying to understand what it all means and trying to understand how we fit in. And the thing about a labyrinth, going through it, it's a lonely experience. You never think that you're going through it with your really good friends or your family. It's something that's quite isolating. It's no wonder when you look at photographs of buildings, of beautiful architectural feats, that they're often photographed without anyone in them at all. But here's the thing. What these 2 things have in common is their perception to stop time. Because instead of connecting emotionally with people, you can also connect emotionally to a place. Maybe it's the moment a lot of us are students. Maybe it's the moment you looked at Edinburgh and thought that it might be a kind of home for you. I saw this more than ever while maintaining a sketchbook as an architecture student. And I ended up leaning on it a lot more recently, especially when I was on my year abroad, due to an encounter I had. Here's a sketchbook. Due to an encounter I had with a student. And basically what happened was that this person was trying to justify her lack of interaction with foreigners like myself, who were only there for a year. And what she said to me, I will never forget. She said, "You are a bad investment." For anyone who's ever been rejected for something that they can't control, you can imagine how that feels. And I wasn't the only one who was the recipient of this attitude. It's a mentality of how people are really precious with their time, despite living in an increasingly globalized and mobilized world. I felt profoundly unconnected with people or place. I was lost in the labyrinth of my life, and the walls were closing in. How do you get out? I looked at the tools I had, my sketchbook. Now, the thing about a sketchbook is that it's a static object, right? But what it does is when you use it, it brings time to a standstill because you're absorbing yourself in that moment when you produce something. And this sensation of time slowing down is the same sensation when you look at someone you care about and you say, "I am so glad I met you." Be it a stranger at a party or your best friend sitting on the couch of your flat at 11 p.m. at night. You get to watch their face light up. And when I met someone who gave me that feeling, I was able to put the 2 together. What I learned was the timing of meaningful connection. Drawing became a medium for me that made me understand architecture wasn't about these empty buildings and empty spaces. It was about the interactions that fill them. When they're present, there's harmony. There's a sense of things falling into place. When they're absent, there's discord, there's awkwardness in both my design ideas and my daily life. And ladies and gentlemen, my face is really easy to read. So that awkwardness is all over it, if it's there. At the end of the day, what I learned is that it doesn't matter when or where it happens, with someone that you just met or someone who you've seen for a long time or maybe haven't seen for a long time, in a completely ordinary or really mundane place. I definitely learned that you can be a little bit vulnerable when you're out of your comfort zone. After all, you're not lonely. You don't have to be lonely if you're navigating the labyrinth of your life alone. Because when it means something to you, your connections will always be timeless.